So the Citizen Lab has been researching internet filtering for the past decade as part of the Open Net Initiative, which is an inter-university consortium, which was set up to document internet filtering practices around the world. When we first started doing this research, really only a handful of countries were filtering the internet. Since that time, we have ran technical tests in over 74 countries around the world and found that 42 of them, including both authoritarian regimes and democratic governments, have some level of filtering. Countries vary in their rationales for why they perform filtering. It can range from concerns around national security, economic concerns, copyright concerns, appeals to public morality, and in some cases to silent voices that are expressing dissent against the government. So there's a wide range of technical practices of how governments and private companies implement internet filtering, and there's a wide range of motivations of why they do it. So it's very important to have research on these practices and information on both the technical side of how this is happening, what the depth and prevalence of internet filtering is in countries around the world, and also understand the contextual side and what are the motivations, why are governments having these concerns, why is internet filtering being seen as a solution to these concerns, and what is the ultimate impact on users and on the political discourse within these countries. So without having this evidence layer of information, you're really starting at zero. So by having this data, by looking at what countries are doing, you can better inform the debates for civil society, for policymakers, and for the general public.
So the last time that the Open Net Initiative had done testing in India was in 2011, and during this time we classified India as having selective filtering. And what this means is that there was only a select amount of URLs that were blocked across the categories that we were testing for. Since then, I've been looking at the internet situation in India. We find that more and more there's cases of there's less transparency in the fact that there's blocking happening. So in 2011 and 2012, if you had accessed a website in India that was blocked, you would see a page that explicitly said that it was blocked by a court order. More and more, what we're seeing now is the URLs. If you access some URLs that are blocked, you'll get a blank page with no information at all. We've also seen evidence of DNS filtering. So for example, if you use the DNS server of BSNL and try to resolve the domain of certain file sharing sites, for instance, you won't get a reply. But if you use any other domain name service provider, you'll get the correct response. So the lack of transparency has gotten quite distressing in the Indian censorship regime. The other distressing element of this is the fact that there doesn't seem to be a lot of rigor around verifying which sites are going to be blocked by court order. And if, for example of this, there's a lot of instances where there are blocked site orders in India, and the actual site has nothing to do with it. For example, there was a court order that declared that certain sites related to file sharing should be blocked. And one of the URLs in this was indiebay.org, which was actually not a file sharing site at all, but rather an activist site based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And other instances include blocking entire sites when only small elements of it should have been blocked. For instance, the site typepad.com had been blocked for many years in India, while the court order only specified a certain subdomain of that site. So the situation, the censorship situation in India is distressing just because recently there's been lack of transparency, and that's it.
So countries that implement internet filtering have a range of motivations for doing so. Some claim it's necessary due to concerns around national security and terrorism. Others claim it's necessary due to concerns around public morality, content that might be deemed blasphemous, content that is seen as socially undesirable, such as pornography or content related to child abuse. Other countries claim it's due to issues around economic concerns and copyright. And some see censorship as necessary to silence voices that may be challenging the ruling regime. The problem with some of these motivations and some of the stated reasons that countries filter the internet is a country can start with an official justification for filtering, such as filtering pornography or filtering child abuse content, that is more or less accepted by the general public. But in some cases, once you have the system in place for filtering, there can be an element of mission creep, where it becomes very tempting to filter other content. Or a country may say it filters certain content, and while it filters other content, is not transparent about it. So for example, in Vietnam, historically the government has officially claimed that internet filtering in that country is there to limit access to pornography. However, for many years Vietnam has been a pervasive filter of content related to human rights and politics. Similarly, in Ethiopia, the government has denied implementing internet filtering, while in our research we have evidence of them filtering sites related to politics and human rights in the country. So you see this issue of transparency and accountability with countries saying they're filtering for one reason, while they might be filtering for another. Or a country might start filtering for that reason, and then with the censorship system in place, they can be tempted to filter other content that might be seen as undesirable later. So really since 9/11, we've seen countries around the world taking the issue of terrorism and national security as a rationale for justifying systems of communication surveillance. What's problematic about this is a lot of power is being vested into intelligence agencies, into other authorities who are conducting the surveillance, and oftentimes with limited transparency and accountability for what they're actually doing. So I think we really need to have a debate over what we're sacrificing for these surveillance systems in terms of civil liberties, in terms of privacy, to understand what's at stake with them, and to have a closer look at what kind of powers are being given to intelligence agencies and authorities, and what kind of watchdog mechanisms there are to ensure they're using those powers ethically, and what those powers can mean for citizens around the world.
NetSweeper is a company based out of Ontario, Canada, that creates products that are used for internet filtering around the world. It is used in various places. There's a lot of legitimate uses for their filtering products, such as using them in either schools or an office space, but they also do business with national ISPs. So we have seen instances of NetSweeper being used in the United Arab Emirates, for example, or Yemen, and it's also being used in India. What's surprising is that the NetSweeper uses the example of India as a case study and as a success story in their promotional materials. So there's a case study about how they do business with the state ISP BSNL here, and they point this as a success story. It's problematic when you use these kind of installations on national ISP levels because it provides blanket filtering for websites. And it's problematic because NetSweeper being a Canadian company, in Canada there is not the filtering regimes that are present in some of these countries, and even though there's problems when a free country, or a relatively free country, is exporting these kind of controls to the rest of the world.
So FinFisher is a suite of tools that are referred to as lawful intercept. It's developed by a company called Gamma Group based in the UK, and what the capabilities of this suite provide is the ability to compromise computers and exfiltrate documents, turn on webcams, turn on microphones, install keyloggers, and essentially target computers of individual users and spy on information. This kind of lawful intercept tool, as they're referred to in the market, are ostensibly marketed specifically to government agencies and law enforcement agencies. Gamma Group and other companies like it claim that that is their restricted customer base. So our lab, the Citizen Lab, has done about a year of research on FinFisher and other related companies, and this work is led by our colleagues Morgan Marquis-Biore, Bill Marziak, and John Scott Railton, along with others. We've been trying to understand how these tools are used, what their technical features are, and if they're being used in contexts outside of those that the companies claim. So about a year ago, we found that the FinFisher product called FinSpy was being used to target Bahraini activists and exfiltrate information from them. So this was a first example for us of showing how this tool is being used potentially by a regime with poor human rights record and to specifically target activists. Since then, we've done, as I said, a year of research on FinFisher, and we have also found document lures. So often the way that FinFisher is delivered is through email with a message that is trying to entice a user to open a document. And we have seen document lures, so this form of enticing users that have political content and seem to be part of campaigns that are potentially politically motivated. So for example, we have seen document lures referring to an opposition group in Ethiopia. We recently found an example of a document that contained FinFisher that was in Malay and had content related to the 2013 Malaysian general election. In that case, we didn't know who the perpetrators behind the attack were, we didn't know who the targets were, and we didn't know how many potential users might have been infected by this particular document. However, given that it was in Malay and given that it was related to the Malaysian general election, we can conclude that it was intended for people who speak that language and who are interested in that issue. So our colleagues have also done scans across the internet for signatures of FinFisher, and they have found the presence of FinFisher command and control servers. So these are the server computers that send commands to infected computers that have been targeted by FinFisher and would collect the information back from those computers. And we have found them in over 36 different countries. And this includes a wide range of countries, including Australia, Austria, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Canada, Indonesia, India, Malaysia, Mexico, Nigeria, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates, United States, the UK, Vietnam, just among some of the ones that we found. So this opened a number of questions. It's important to note that just because there's the presence of a command and control server within a country, that doesn't necessarily mean that a law enforcement agency or an intelligence service of that country is a client of FinFisher or is operating that particular server. However, given this global proliferation of these servers, it opens a lot of technical, legal, and policy questions of why these servers are there, what they're being used for, who the clients of them are, and what the ultimate intention of it is. So we hope through this research and uncovering how these tools are being used, civil society, researchers, and the general public and policymakers can become more engaged with this issue and try to explore some of these open questions.